my last film, I was surprised to see that they were playing Old 37, a movie that was supposed to appear at last year's Horrorhound before it was pulled from the schedule, ostensibly for some post-production work. Well, after a year of waiting, at least Old 37 has the courtesy to announce just how worth the wait it is by slapping us in the face with an Alan Smithee credit. For those of you unfamiliar with the name Alan Smithee, it's a pseudonym used by directors so ashamed of how a product turned out, they're willing to give up credit for ever having worked on a production in the desperate attempt to have the steaming pile of crap not associated with their name. For those not familiar with the film Old 37, it's the story of two brothers who disguise themselves as paramedics to stalk brain-dead teens in a desperate attempt to bore the audience into a coma. That's not to say the movie wasn't made with the best of intentions, but as the old saying goes, those are mostly only good as paving material on the road to hell. Apparently based on a dream the writer had, because that's apparently such a good fucking idea! Old 37, despite its solid concept, simply does not know what to do with itself. While the film has the admirable goal of trying to make us care about the characters on both sides of the cranial saw, it goes about it in the worst possible way. When our focus is directed to the meat that'll shortly be taking a ride in the Titler meat wagon, we aren't treated to witnessing their true character exposed as they're drawn deeper into the plot. Instead, what we're given is a perpetual character-establishing Act 1 that lasts until they collide with the killers all of 10 minutes from the end of the movie. The result plays out like a rather crappy episode of Dawson's Creek with just a little more violence and gore. And while some might chalk that up to the flaw inherent in the concept, namely that in order for the killers to actually catch anyone, nobody can know who they are or what they're doing, the film actually contains its own solution for that it never capitalizes on. When we aren't focused on yet another episode of the Kilmore Girls, the movie's showing us the background of our two amateur surgery enthusiasts, played by horror legends Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder. Apparently, our marginal protagonists were responsible for running over their mother, prompting them to follow in the footsteps of their insane battlefield surgeon turned serial killer father. Now, in a film with an actual plot, this is the point where I tell you that, when their negligence once again results in injury, this time one of their own number, the killers respond, recognize the people responsible for mushing their mum, then kidnap and torture their friend, forcing them to debate whether or not they should go to the police, because they're just as likely to wind up in jail as the killers. Nope! Fuck that! That would actually be interesting! Instead, we get more of what we really want. Mindless teen drama, as we're force-fed flashback after flashback of info that could be cleared up with a line of dialogue or two. And honestly, if any of these characters had half a brain, I wouldn't mind spending time with them. Sadly, as fucked up as the storyline's priorities are, the characters are yet worse. Take, for example, our ostensible survivor girl. By dint of storytelling necessity, the person we're supposed to identify with more than anyone else, so we actually give a shit about whether she buys it or not. Of course, it's kind of tough to empathize with someone who, the same night she delivers a eulogy for her murdered best friend that, according to the movie, she was as close to as a sister, decides that what she really needs to do is get a boob job and dye her hair so she looks exactly like the girl responsible for her friend's death. Not in any Hamlet-esque plot to expose the murder, but rather in an attempt to steal the other girl's boyfriend, an attempt made all the more nonsensical given that said boyfriend already broke up with said super bitch and probably doesn't feel like dating her clone. Of course, all of this is just a time-wasting plot contrivance so the murderous medics mistake her for super bitch, which is kind of funny since, if memory serves, he already fucking killed her! Seriously, it's amazing that with an extra 6 months to a year to work on this pile of garbage, it still feels as disjointed as a pile of raw footage. To be honest, it's a shame that Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder wasted their time on this mistake, and if you're smart, neither will you.
And I told him what I'd done. He said, you best go on and diet. Yeah, I hope you have some fun. And I don't go burst the bubble on the rich folks who get rude.